Hi, welcome to How to Repair. As you all know, I normally fix domestic appliances and I'm really fighting against all the built-in obsolescence that goes on with these appliances today. But I went over my neighbours for Sunday lunch last week and they were actually throwing out an 18-month-old Strimmer. And I'm not only going to show you how I repaired this Strimmer for them, I'm also going to explain to you how these things are so disposable and what legislation needs to be put in place to change this ludicrousy that is taking place with all cordless tools today. When sitting down and having Sunday lunch, the conversation came around about the Strimmer, and I asked Jerry and his wife, I said, what have you replaced it with? And he turned round to me and said, well, I had to go out and buy the same one as I had before. And I asked him why, and he turned round and explained to me. He had a drill that was Makita, he had a hedge trimmer that was Makita, and therefore the batteries were compatible with these devices. Because Jerry had done this, he had unknowingly trapped himself within one brand. Although he was not happy with the original Strimmer he bought, he was committed to the brand via the battery system. Let me quickly give you an understanding of the different battery bank systems, how they are designed only for individual brands, and how these brands are committing one of the biggest environmental issues that we have on the planet today. Most of the tools that people have in their workshop, or even my workshop, normally have voltages of 12, 18, 24 and 36 volts for the heavy duty tools. When it comes to some of the smaller little drills, you may even have voltages as low as 3.6 or 7.2. This is because the battery bank systems are constructed with individual cells and multiple cells in series. For example, I have a small cordless little drill and it is a 12 volt drill. There are 3 cells inside this drill. And if you look at the diagram I put up on the screen here, this is constructed of 18 650 cells which are linked in series, creating a 2 amp hour battery pack at 10.8 nominal voltage. When it is fully charged, it is 12.4, 12.5 volts. Okay, when it comes to Jerry's battery bank systems, I know he's got a couple of different sizes over at his house. And I believe he may have 4 amp hour batteries, 5 amp hour batteries like this one, and I believe he may even have a 6 amp hour battery. These are all compatible on all his tools that he has from Makita. I also have a Bosch battery here, which is also an 18 volt 5 amp hour battery. If we look at the actual size of the batteries, they're exactly the same. Inside construction is pretty much exactly the same. The only difference being is the pin configuration for mounting the batteries. Now, if we look at a company like Apple, Apple used to construct their own charging cables and their own data transfer cables because they were totally incompatible with normal PCs. And the governing bodies actually got round to forcing Apple into using USB-C. Why can they not do the same when it comes to these manufacturers who are building cordless tools? Okay, what I would ask you all to do is leave a comment in the video or even share it, because acting as a community is the only way we seem to get anything heard in this world today. Manufacturers are only caring about your money and they hide behind multiple different brands which they own. Governments only care about consumption because this is what props up the false economies of today. Okay, when it came to testing Jerry's Strimmer, I did this before I made the video to make sure that I could get the part here to make the video for you. But also I needed to give you an understanding of checks that you need to do, because Jerry has multiple batteries. So Jerry was able to establish that his drill was working perfectly with all his batteries, therefore the Strimmer should work. You might not have multiple batteries, so you need to make sure that your battery has got the correct voltage. Now, I've got some batteries here that are open, just to explain about the cells in the battery. There are 5 batteries in this 18 volt battery, 3.6 volts in series, giving us 18 volts nominal charge. This means that when we go across the 2 terminals, we should have somewhere in the region of 18 volts or above. Now, the problem being is all the cells in this battery are dead. But this battery is a great example for you to understand. This is twice the amount of power of that battery because it's got 10 cells at 2000 milliamp hours, and these are wired in 2 strings of 18 volts and in parallel increasing the ampage of the battery. But the problem with this battery, 2 of the cells on the end here are dead, but the other cells are all in good condition and have between 4.1 4.2 volts in them. The 2 cells at the end are bringing the whole battery down to 15 volts. And if I use my multimeter here, and I'll just do 4 checks on these batteries, and going across this battery, as you can see, I've only got 0.04 volts in that battery, totally dead. But this battery, when I test it, has got 15.4 volts. If you took off the 3.6 of one cell being dead, that brings it down to that voltage. If I test Jerry's battery here and go across the positive and the negative, you can see that Jerry's battery is 19.6, nearly fully charged battery. And I have my Bosch battery here, and I suspect this needs a charge, and it's low voltage, it's only 17.69, meaning that this battery does need a charge. But this gives you an understanding of a baseline to start your repair. Then you're going to be able to connect the actual battery up to the Strimmer, and if I just move all this out of the way, by the way, you are able to repair battery banks by replacing the cells, and I'm using normally an item like this, which is a balanced charger, so I can balance the cells and get them up to the correct voltage of whatever the cells require. And I'll be showing you all that in other videos. Okay, knowing that we've got a good battery, we're now able to do some basic checks. Now, you are able to test the electrics using a multimeter, but when I insert the battery, press the trigger down, press the button, as you can see here, nothing is happening at all. But do wear gloves for safety on what I'm about to do now. I've got no Strimmer wire here showing at all, but if I hold down the trigger and give this a touch, it springs into life. Now, what I did notice when I stripped it down, there was a lot of plastic around the motor shaft. This is where it connects to the Strimmer head, and I suspect that the person who was using the Strimmer had picked up some plastic, continued using the machine while that was on there, and the motor may overheat. Now, I managed to get the motor for, believe it or not, I think it was about £30, including the postage, and I will put an affiliate link in on the description on this video. But that is the complete motor assembly, and it's a brushless motor, and we're just going to remove the head here now and replace the motor. Okay, I've already had this apart, but I will tell you now, you're going to need something with a good point on it to clean up the threads on the actual screws that you need to remove, to make sure that you can get your screwdriver in there properly, because a lot of grass will have built up in this area. I'm also going to take the spool off, pressing the 2 buttons down. The spool will come away. I won't need to remove this on this type of Strimmer. Using a screwdriver, you will need to do a bit of force. Undo both of these screws. Once you've got them off, you'll be able to lift up the guard and put it away. There was a chunk out of this guard, but really he'll manage without it. And then if we look on the side here, be careful of any little nuts or anything that fall out. I believe that comes from the locking screw there. And we've got 5 screws all the way around here. Once those are undone, take off the cover, and here is the motor. Now we've got that exposed, I can show you, you can double check before ordering a motor if you want to, but if I turn my meter on to DC on the 20 volt range, because we're working with 18 volts, connect up my terminals, and now connect the battery. We have 19.83 volts and the motor is not turning. Okay, a couple of things to note when taking these motors off. You'll see here, if I get a screwdriver to point so I keep my fingers out of the way, there is some like rubber inserts on the top bearing here, and there'll also be one in the bottom. And if I bring the new motor up to the camera so you can see that rubber insert just in the corner there where the screwdriver is pointing. And sometimes these come apart very easily, and on other occasions I might have to even get my pullers out to take the bearing system. Oh no, this comes away. So that allows me to take out the motor, and now I can remove the two terminals. Of course, I've already disconnected the motor battery from the unit to make sure it's safe. Take that away. I'm going to clear out the grass that's in there. Really speaking, I should give this a good clean up, but just for video purposes, I'm just going to insert this all together. You also want to check the bearings on this. These bearings are pretty good. They're running smoothly. Insert the motor. Connect up the wiring. Drop that back down into location and make sure it locks nicely. And I might just put a touch of grease on that just to help in the lubrication. Although it's a steel cog against a plastic cog, I still think it should have a touch of grease on there to add with the lubrication. And as that turns, that will be plenty. Now all we need to do is make sure everything goes back together nicely. You only need to take these hand tight and 1/4 of a turn. Now our little nut came from just inside there. It's a little bit loose on the fitting, so I'll pop that back down. Hand tight, 1/4 of a turn. There's enough Strimmer wire on there. Could all really do with a clean up, but there's no point me doing that on video. Okay, we'll give it a test. Plug the battery in. There you go. Jerry has got a spare Strimmer. He could have saved himself some money on buying a new one, but now he knows for the future. And I'm not going to feel guilty this weekend when I take the Strimmer back and drink his beer while eating his wife's exquisite cooking. Thank you very much indeed for watching the video. Please remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you wish, and remember, if you really want to help the website, you can always click on the Bipolar Beer page and donate to the website, as that's what keeps us going and able to make these videos for you. Any links to spare parts I will put in the description on this video, and please leave a comment so we can make a change in legislation.